Stewart-Haas Racing might be one of the most interesting teams in NASCAR for every reason but being good. And it only gets more and more interesting as more and more rumors begin to fly away. And one of the biggest ones now is that SHR might just sell everything. Just get rid of everything, get out of the sport, or at least get out of the NASCAR Cup Series. There's been rumors of selling buildings, charters, you name it. And this has been rumored for some time. And it's heating up a little bit more. But I think to add more context to all of this, I think we need to look more in depth at each aspect, because if it was just bad performance, then it could be chalked up to fans going to different conclusions. If it was one angry driver, well then, yeah, it could just be a disgruntled worker. If it was just one of the two team owners, I get that people could maybe say, well, yeah, that guy might want out, but the other one might want to stay in. But there's so much going on at once that it does feel like this team, if not coming to an end, is coming to an end as we know it right now. Starting off, let's look at the drivers and their performance. Since the late 2010s, where SHR peaked, getting 4 of their cars in the playoffs, having their drivers all winning races, they have sharply declined in performance overall, with the exception of one driver, Kevin Harvick. And Kevin Harvick probably has arthritis because he has been carrying this team on his back for basically the entire time he was there. And with that, the past 2 or 3 years, he was bringing cars and bringing a team that had no business being in the playoffs and bringing them to victory lane, not just bringing them to the playoffs. While better in 2024, the performance by no means is good. And what a lot of this might have led to is what we've seen in the fracturing. Recently, it came out that Josh Berry, Noah Gragson, and Chase Briscoe had a little study hall at Stewart-Haas Racing during the week, trying to figure out who was going to do what to help each other perform better. But if you noticed, Ryan Preece was left out of that statement and was left out of those meetings, and I think it would bring a pretty big fracturing to the team. And with that, they now say that Preece is involved, but it's kind of hard to, I think, sell that there's a real trust and camaraderie there when it's pretty obvious that there wasn't. And with that, they also, from the rumors, are kind of shopping themselves out, seeing what options there are in case Stewart-Haas Racing sells or goes under. And with this, we got to ask where they could go. Well, first off, there is the rumor again that Stewart-Haas Racing may merge and Front Row would be the team they merge with, bringing Front Row to a 4-car team and a higher level of Ford status. That is where any of these drivers could go and should not be left in any way out of the conversation or options when it comes to them. But when it comes to Chase Briscoe, the biggest rumor around him is that he will go to the 21 for the Wood brothers. Now, he has also said he's not allowed to talk to other teams and he can't speak on that at the moment, but let's be honest, if you can see tampering in the NFL, you can see it in NASCAR. It really is not that far-fetched, in my opinion, that he's had at least some conversations with the Penske side of Ford. And make no mistake, while it says Wood Brothers on the owner sheet, that is a 4th Penske car. This car is basically run out of everything that is Penske except the building and name alone. And this car also runs well and should be a playoff caliber car. He has been a Ford driver, speaking of Briscoe, since day one, and I don't think Ford is going to get rid of him as he is the only SHR driver right now safely, at least points-wise, in the playoffs as we're halfway through the regular season. He has probably been the lead guy outside of the Penske camp, and he will be pretty safe in my opinion. Noah Gragson is someone else who has also performed surprisingly well this year. He has a large fan base and sponsorship that's remained loyal to him, so I don't see Gragson really struggling to get a new ride if the Stewart-Haas deal just ends up not working. And like I said, he's performed really good, all things considered, especially compared to his rookie year from hell that was ended early. So far this year, if it wasn't for his 35-point penalty, he'd be within a race's worth of points away from the cut line. He probably would not be able to outperform even a struggling Joey Logano, but to do this in an SHR 10 car, which is basically outside of a blip year here or there with Eric Almirola, never been good, is damn impressive. I think that there could be a theory to where he could go. He's sponsored in part by Bass Pro Shops and others, and I think that, say, Austin Dillon, who's been rumored to maybe step aside from driving to kind of help internally with RCR, say he does that, I could see Noah Gragson driving a black Bass Pro Shops 3 car. It's not even a rumor, it's just a theory I have, but I could see it happening. As for Josh Berry, he's a rookie, and he's shown good flashes. There's not really been any rumors surrounding him yet, and I don't think it's that surprising just because Berry is such a new commodity to the NASCAR Cup Series. He has the full support of Dale Earnhardt Jr. behind him that will help him. I believe that sponsors will be fine with him, and he's shown flashes on the track. So I'd say if any of the drivers would end up at front row, he might be the most likely to do so. And then there's Ryan Preece, again, the odd man out. Preece is a great, talented driver and was kind of Tony Stewart's pet project over the last couple years in this car, but he's had multiple chances in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's not really performed in any ride, and while those chances weren't the greatest, he is still not really wowed by any means. He is the only one I could see going to the Xfinity Series full-time, or just plainly going back to lower-level racing, where he'd probably be a lot happier than in the NASCAR Cup Series. As for the ownership side, Gene Haas and Tony Stewart have both been portrayed as inactive owners. Kevin Harvick actually called them out this past week while he was praising Rick Hendrick for actually being someone that he could talk to twice in the last week. And when it comes to Tony Stewart in particular, he seemed disenfranchised with Ford and NASCAR for a long time. I think the biggest culprit to this is Ford denying him Kyle Larson in 2020, and we've seen how much of a mistake that would be. While Larson probably would just have performed about the same as he did at Ganassi, I do think that Stewart-Haas Racing would not be in the position it's in today if they had a franchise driver like that. No disrespect to the 4 they have now, but Kyle Larson is special, as we've seen at Indianapolis recently. And I think that with him locked in with the NHRA and his wife, I don't see Stewart really wanting to put any effort away from that into NASCAR, which he has definitely been at odds with for basically his entire career, but especially his post-retirement ownership career. Overall, this is something that I don't think we've seen since the mid-2000s, when teams were merging and closing due to a bad economy. Now it might be due to economic reasons, but also just NASCAR reasons in general. And it's kind of coincidental, or maybe it's not coincidental, that that's around the time SHR was truly born with Stewart jumping over there. It probably will be better in a competition's sake to either have an expanding team that's really putting money into the sport or new blood in general, like we saw with Trackhouse in 2311. But I think it'll also be negative losing Tony Stewart, a huge name for NASCAR's brand, to completely want to be away from NASCAR entirely. But with that, what do you think? Is everyone blowing it out of proportion, or is it in its dying days? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to this channel for more great and fun NASCAR content. Thank you so much to all my channel members for your continued support, and be sure tomorrow night to watch NWP on my channel. We'll talk about this, the double with Larson, and everything else in between with special guest David Land. So, until then, have a good one.